Hello, everyone. Skatepark Mark here, and I'm back for another episode, another shallow dive, a skim, if you will, of the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year of 2022. Here on the Congress website, it's telling us that this act has been introduced and passed by the House, and it's up for voting on the Senate side of things. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. So I think our timing here of learning about this is good. I say our. I don't know if anybody is necessarily interested in this. Sometimes, I don't know. I'm a little clueless as to basically what people are into. I, for one, find this stuff to be interesting. And it comes from just sort of an innate thing inside of me to have an awareness of what's going on in my reality, sort of, and how this affects my reality. I might not even have any clue to. However, I like the opportunity that the internet provides to look through this stuff that is very intensive, and then, have just at my fingertips, the ability to check some of this stuff out, so we can get an idea. I can get an idea, and whoever wants to follow along can get an idea of what's going on. So we can, become enlightened and wise. And so we can all, I don't know if we're necessarily going to follow up with any of this stuff, but we're creating a baseline. So going forward, we can see, hopefully, progress on some of this stuff. And this is the Department of Defense budget here. There's a lot of other governmental areas that probably need exploration by Skatepark Mark. But we're just starting with this. So, where do you do? What do? You just start here at the beginning. So we are into the fourth hour, because I do hour-long segments, the fourth hour of this. And so let's just get right into this. As I scroll down and make sure my screen's recording. I made the mistake one time to not record my screen. We're working through subtitles. In our last hour, we got through this subtitle E, the reports. We finished with this little Payload, Project Payload, which is a mobile nuclear microreactors. And this involves these little pellets that apparently can be burned, and it's safer, and they're little, it's mobile. So we can power our bases overseas and cut down on casualties. Because interestingly enough, a lot of the people that die overseas, and it's probably not called inaction, however, maybe it is inaction, they are moving materials back and forth, so they have to leave the base to go get water or something like that. That's when they're hit. So this is just an opportunity here with this Payload project to, have more localized energy, so we don't have to, run around so much and expose ourselves. So anyway, that's what was section 367. And I digress, because we are moving forward. We're in subtitle F right now, and we are into other matters. Sounds like a catch-all. Interested to see what we're going to catch. 371. the budget justification for operation and maintenance. Sounds very broad. If it's so broad, then I'm just going to search for the whole thing. I'll probably just come up with looped right back to this act. Provide full justification of all budget items related to the proposed research. Budget justification. Columbia does it. And they provide the justification. All right, something says or tells me that maybe some of this stuff might need a little bit of justification in this next section. So maybe what we're doing is we're just justifying some of this stuff ahead of time. I don't know what that means. Anyway, let's move on. Section 372. Improvements and clarifications related to military working dogs. So we want some improvements and some clarification on this stuff. On our military working dogs. And these dogs, having not necessarily worked a lot with dogs, but the more, maybe as I get older, I'm just, seeing how truly endearing dogs are just as a species. I mean, it just gets me almost choked up the way, you can be mean to a dog and they'll still love you. And that kind of faithfulness just makes you love them. So look at these dogs and they just want to help. And they're so smart. And I hopefully we're not mean to the dogs. Military working dogs through history. Call them what you want. War dogs or military working dogs. They've been around for centuries worldwide. Oh, that's the sound you make when you see all this stuff. Oh, this is great. Look at these dogs. National Dog Day. Military working dogs. They haven't got the recognition they deserve. They detect landmines, fearlessly charge into the heat of battle. Look at them. Oh, man. Oh. Ha. That's great. I love that. All right. I think we get the idea there. We need a little bit of improvement with our working dogs. We need to give them more credit. All right. Section 373. Management of fatigue among crew of naval surface ships and related improvements. So we need to manage the fatigue among naval surface ships. Okay. What does that mean? Naval readiness. Implementation of fatigue management policy. We need to reduce our fatigue. We can't be tired. All right. Manage fatigue. Navy issued a fatigue management policy in 2017, but has inconsistently implemented sailors. It and sailors are not receiving adequate sleep. 14% of the officers received the then recommended 7 hours. Crew required funded. So, how do they get more sleep? They have mishaps at sea. They've collided with things. These guys are tired. Cellular fatigue. So, we've resized the ship crews to handle the workload, to have more people there. So these guys don't have to do so much. All right. So it's important to realize these ship guys get tired. All right. Section 374. Authority to establish Center of Excellence for Radar Systems and Complementary Workforce and Education Programs. We need a Center of Excellence for the radar systems. Just the radar systems? Is that the only one that gets a Center of Excellence? Radar Payload is a broad network that brings together experts. Radar systems. What are we talking about? The world depends on RF, radio frequency, maybe communications, drive commerce, connect people, Payload, Center of Excellence. It brings together an innovative team. Payload, Center of Excellence, reduces costs, accelerates development by uniting researchers. The digital difference. Network of expertise. Denver, Payload Center of Excellence. So it looks like Denver is maybe where the Center of Excellence is. But I contact Mark Lewis to understand a little bit about what this is. And we're looking for the authority to establish a Center of Excellence. Well, it looks like Lockheed Martin already has a Center of Excellence. Payloads, subsystems. Payloads, RF transmission, wide band remote sensing, space surveillance, navigation, space to ground links, intersatellite links. Payloads and subsystems. So, radar systems. In the Poconos. Looks like we're in the Poconos. Let's go to the Poconos. I ain't talking the Poconos. Whoa. It's a center of radar excellence. Large white random dominates the high ground at Tobyhanna Army Depot in the Poconos. Tobyhanna is in the Poconos. So this might be where the Center of Excellence is. Acquisition General. This is in 2011. All right. What was I looking at here? Payload subsystems. Let's look at this. All right. Payload versus subsystem. Oh, payload subsystem. Payload subsystem. Satellites. The subsystem that looks into the science of the payload and it's working in the satellite is called the payload subsystem. This subsystem has to have interacted with various subsystems for understanding the capabilities. The payload, hearing about a satellite, is what does it do? Payload is essentially the answer to this question. It refers to the actual function of a satellite in space. In other words, it is the purpose of the satellite. The satellite's built. The satellite teams have a payload subsystem that works on deciding this purpose. So payload radar systems of complementary workforce and education programs. Okay, so these radar systems are important, and we need a center of excellence. And is it going to be in Denver? Is it going to be in the Poconos? Not sure. But we're just acquainting ourselves with this stuff. So it's good to know. 374 is working with the Center of Excellence for our radar systems. All right, moving on. 375, pilot program on military working dog and explosive detection canine health and excellence. Okay, more working dogs. And that's the thing with this. Why can't we put this working dog stuff next to the working dog? Why do we have to put a radar satellite subsystem in the middle of the working dogs? House of Representatives, military working dogs. Let's just take one quick look at maybe a website. Breeding better dogs. Military working detection dogs. This is a pilot program on the military working dog and explosive detection canine health and excellence. Awesome. It's great. Working dogs. All right. 376. Department of Defense response to military lasing incidents. Is this when you get lazy, or is this when you get shot by a laser? Wait, lasing or hazing? Department of Defense response to military lasing incidents. Could it be a hazing incident? This is saying that it's hazing. report a laser incident. So, what is it? What does it mean? Is it a hazing or is it a lasing? You know, it could be either. Like, report a laser incident. You're a victim of a laser incident. Laser beam exposure. Department of Defense response. All right. We're going to have to just look at the whole thing. This might be a typo. Be the second typo I've unearthed here. One of them was from the president. The last one, where he did 351 instead of 341. Section 376. Lasing incidents. Explosive ordnance disposal. So where are we? Other matters. 376, Department of Defense response to military lasing incidents. Is lasing even a word? Lasing. It's just to be lazy. Lasing incidents. I don't know. I think this is a typo. You know, how are we supposed to pass this stuff if this is typos? It's a lasing incident. All right. Who knows? Who knows what they mean? Either we get shot by lasers or we get hazed. All right. 377, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Defense Program. Explosive Ordnance Disposal. What is an explosive ordnance disposal? Explosive ordnance disposal involves the disposal of explosive ordnance, including mines and explosive remnants of war. While in practice, EOD operations include disposal of all EO, the main focus is the disposal of ERW. The majority of, okay. Explosive ordnance disposal. Ordnance. Explosive ordnance. Ordnance. Mounted guns, artillery. Ordnance, or guns. Military weapons. It's not an ordnance. It's an ordnance. Explosive ordnance disposal. When is this from? 2014. Standards for humanitarian demining programs. Well, I mean, what do they do with them? It's a good question. And what this is, we've got a program for it. Secretary of Defense shall carry out a program to be known as the explosive ordnance. All right. Intelligence on explosive ordnance, technical intelligence. Okay, so we've got a whole program on dealing with the disposal of explosive ordnance. Sounds good. Pilot program on the use of working dogs to detect early stages of disease. See, now we're back to this is what they do. They do the dogs, and then they do radar, then they do the dogs, then they do explosives, and now we're back to the dogs. And what's cool, though, is that these dogs can sniff out COVID. Ha! The COVID-19 Warrior Dog Amendment directs the Secretary of Defense to establish a pilot program to determine the effectiveness of using scent detection working dogs to detect early stages of disease. So that's in there. That's cool. Canines trained to sniff out disease. Citrus and other fruits. Now researchers, little cherry disease. This is cool. I was kind of curious on who's doing this. Philip Berger at the USDA. In Hawaii. Huh. 99.1% plum pox. Dog sniffs the entire tree. Washington Tree Fruit Research Commission. A $6,000 pilot project. So, Clean Plant Center Northwest providing disease-free plant material. Okay. That's cool. Pilot program, early stages of disease. All right, 379. Study on disease prevention for military working dogs. Do the dogs have disease? Okay, so it turns out our poor dogs get diseases. So we're going to have them sniff diseases, but at the same time, we got to prevent them from getting disease. Study on disease prevention. Maybe that's what that means, which is great. So a lot of these other matters are dogs. Of all the things, dogs. Love it. All right. Moving forward. Title, what is that? 4, Military Personnel Authorizations. Subtitle A, Active Forces. All right. I'm just reading this first one, and it just seems weird. And strengths for active forces. What the heck? Why do we want to end our strength? Okay, now we're getting just sloppy in this thing. Okay, active duty military personnel end strengths. So this is maybe just a term, end strengths. End strengths. Military personnel end strength. end strength? In 2017, National Defense Authorization Act built up force structure. The bill increased the end strength of active duty Army. Air Force got an active duty increase. The Army dropped from 780 to 4 active duty end strength. This is interesting. Okay. What is end strength? End strength. Oh, back here. Personnel end strength. Enlisted end strength. Average strength. What is the end strength? Weak points, end range. End strength. I mean, is this just all the active personnel, or is this people who are on hand right away? U.S. Army said that if the budget top line in future years either stays the same or decreases, he doesn't see the service's end strength dropping, but he also doesn't see it growing. End strength. All right, this might just be a term for how many people we have in the active forces. End strength. All right, that sounds good. Revisions in permanent active duty end strength minimum levels. Permanent active duty end strength levels. So, authorizing Army end strength 480,000. Army National Guard. Permanent. It would also make the permanent active duty end strength minimum levels. Okay. End strength. Must just be the term for how many people we have. Active forces end strength. That's what section. That's the subtitle A. All right, moving on. Subtitle B, reserve forces. This is the end strength for selected reserve. So we have active forces and selected reserve. The selected reserve, also called CELRIS or SR or are members of a U.S. military Ready Reserve unit that are enrolled in Ready Reserve program, the reserve unit that they are attached to. Select reserve members. The selected reserve they're considered to be active. They are required to complete drill periods per year, prescribed training. All right, so these guys are ready to go, sounds like. End strength for reserves on active duty in support of the reserves. So we have active duty, active forces, and we have a selected reserve. We have end strength for these. End strength for military technicians. Dual status. Military reserves. For purposes section and any other provision of law, a military technician is a federal civilian employee who's employed, assigned to a civilian position as a technician. Military technicians. So there's a dual status of technicians. Resolved a technical question about Social Security benefits available to a small group of National Guard workers. Dual status technicians. Okay, so this has to do with some benefits. Be a military technician and get military benefits even though you're not working on military stuff. You have dual status. Looks technical. All right, moving on. Section 414. Maximum number of reserve personnel authorized to be on active duty for operational support. Maximum number of reserve personnel authorized to be on active duty. So you have reserve personnel, they're authorized to be on active duty. We have a maximum number of reserve personnel. Okay, like this. All right. 415. Accounting of reserve component members performing active duty or full-time National Guard duty towards authorized end strengths. So we have these reserve people, and then we have these active duty. And how do we account for them? How do we pay them? Probably. What benefits do they get if they're on reserve or if they're active duty? This probably has some stuff to do with that. So it's very, very monetary, very budget related. All right, moving on. Subtitle C, Authorization of Appropriations. Military personnel. So this must be the section where we talk about how much they get paid or how much we increase their pay. An authorization for appropriation, 421. That's a big one. We're not going to get into that because we're keeping the drive alive. Title 5, Military Personnel Policy. Reserve Component Management. All right. Grade of certain chiefs of reserve components. Grade. Military grade. section authorized the chief of each service reserve component to be in the grade of 3-star officer. All right, let's just see what a 3-star officer means. An officer of 3-star is a senior commander. Okay. Certain chiefs of reserve. So these reserve components can be 3-star. All right. Moving on. Grade of Vice Chief of National Guard Bureau. Vice Chiefs. The Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau. The Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau is the second highest ranking officer of the National Guard Bureau, which is a joint activity of the United States Department of Defense. The Vice Chief is also the second in charge of the National Guard, which is a joint reserve component of the United States Army and the United States Air Force. The Vice Chief serves as principal advisor to the Chief of the National Guard Bureau. So we got a Vice Chief of the National Guard. This is the National Guard. This might be a reserve component. All right. Moving on, 503. Prohibition on private funding for interstate deployment of the National Guard. Whoa, what the heck does that mean? Would ban private donations for National Guard deployment. Can private funds be used for National Guard deployments? National Guard banned from deployment via... All right, so we're saying private people cannot pay the National Guard. Oh, I don't want this thing to play. When was this? Bans that bars the National Guard from being deployed across state lines with the use of private funding. The provision was aimed at a decision when she accepted a $1 million donation from Tennessee Republican donor Willis Johnson to deploy National Guard troops to the county southern border with Mexico following a request. So South Dakota accepted $1 million from a Tennessee Republican to go to Texas. Language in the law prohibits private funding being used to send National Guard troops across state lines with the exception of emergency cases. Well, that sounds quite interesting. The South Dakota governor, she's got these guys, she'll send them places. If the price is right. Pay raise. That's interesting. This is just an interesting story. We'll have to look into this one further, but this is just a Tennessee Republican donor. Who is this guy? Who is this Willis? He's got a lot of money. Just pay South Dakota, Tennessee billionaire behind the $1 million donation for South Dakota National Guard to go to Texas. A billionaire Republican donor who lives in Tennessee donated $1 million. Okay. Willis Johnson. GOP mega fund. Willis Johnson. Junk car billionaire. Reverend. Is this guy? Willis Johnson in Ames. This is Willis Johnson. Mega donor. All right. Very interesting. All right. Private funding for interstate deployment. Requirement of consent of the chief executive officer for certain full-time National Guard duty performed in state, territory, or District of Columbia. Requires the consent of the chief executive officer for certain full-time National Guard duty performed. Okay, so this is where the District of Columbia gets a little bit weird, maybe with the fact that they're a city and a state and territory, and they might have a National Guard executive order. So I was just watching something about the mayor of Washington, D.C. talking about how the National Guard is the president's National Guard because he's the one that has to send them places. I don't know. Anyway, it's confusing. Section 505, National Guard support to major disasters. Report on methods to enhance domestic response to large-scale, complex, and catastrophic disasters. National Guard support to major disasters. The report on the methods to enhance domestic response. Okay. So, this is good. This was probably brought to light by this guy and this South Dakota lady. So now we've got to find a way to send them places. Like, who's going to be responsible for sending them to catastrophic disasters? All right, moving on. 506, continue National Guard support for Fire Guard program. Okay. So we've got a Fire Guard program that seems to direct things. Fire Guard program utilizes Department of Defense resources to help local jurisdictions detect and monitor wildfires. So this is the Fire Guard program. Biden signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law. Sweeping measure. Address Central Coast priorities. Wildfire safety. The bill includes Amendment Carbajal introduced, authorizes Fire Guard program for 5 years. FireGuard program utilizes Department of Defense resources to help local jurisdictions detect and monitor wildfires. Previously, the program had to be reauthorized on a yearly basis, so the provision would provide long-term certainty for emergency responders who rely on this program. California FireGuard program. Sounds like it's a California thing. Firefly. So we're adding the Firefly to the Fire Guard. Since the launch of a 2019 pilot program, National Guard's Fire Guard program, in conjunction with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's Firefly capability, has provided actionable information. The results have been good, okay. The Firefly program. National Guard's Fire Guard program. The Fire Guard program includes Air Force, Army, National Guard, intelligence analysts, one in California, another in Colorado, who use the Firefly algorithm to help interpret data from multiple sources. Imagine Firefly as a funnel above FireGuard. We receive an array of information from multiple sources, and our analysts pull this information, aggregate it, analyze it, assess it, and then from what they produce, sanitize unclassified products that go out to the wildland firefighting community. Products produced by FireGuard. We're talking about products or people? All right. What the heck is the Firefly program? One of the tools provided by the Department of Defense is the Firefly System Pilot Program. It's the Geospace Intelligence Agency. The Firefly provides imagery, information from satellites. Firefly. So it looks like the Firefly is looking for stuff, and then if they see that it's bad enough, then the FireGuard comes in. Okay. Study on reapportionment of National Guard force structure based on domestic responses. Okay, what is that? Reapportionment. All right. So this is probably that we have to move around the National Guard, maybe according not to population, but just to how much they have to respond to stuff. So there might be more down in Louisiana that gets hit by hurricanes per se. Maybe not necessarily in ratio to the population. Okay. Reapportionment. Okay, that looks good. All right. Report on feasibility and advisability of including cybersecurity operations and missions to protect critical infrastructure by members of the National Guard in connection with training and other duty. So, are we going to give our National Guard cybersecurity operations and missions? including cybersecurity operations and missions to protect critical infrastructure by members of the National Guard. What does the internet say about that? Such training and other duty may include cybersecurity operations and missions undertaken by a member's unit at the request of the governor concerned to protect critical infrastructure. Okay, so the point is National Guard must be just on a state level, and the governor can deploy these guys. He recently activated Delaware's National Guard Special Cyberspace Operations Squadron to help protect the state's voting infrastructure. Cybersecurity missions. Okay, so the National Guard has cybersecurity departments, and I mean, isn't that what they're there for? For deployment? I don't know. Gotta wonder, it's like, what are these guys supposed to do? Are they just supposed to be there in case we get invaded? Or, all right, moving on. Access to tour of duty systems. Seems like more cybersecurity stuff. Directs the Army to ensure that members of its reserve component can access the tour of duty system using personal internet-enabled device. And I'm starting to yawn, which means that we've got to be wrapping this up because that is about all we can do. Tour of duty system. And this probably isn't the video game. You are accessing government information system. Mobile is tour of duty. The tour of duty internet site where reserve component soldiers can find and volunteer for active duty tours. Okay, so if you want to go to war, this is where you go. And we'll end it right here with this 509A. Enhancement of National Guard Youth Challenge Program. And so we're going to enhance this program, the National Guard Youth Challenge. Dream, believe, achieve. Reclaiming the lives of at-risk youth, producing a program of graduates with value skills. Oh, okay, so these guys need a little bit of guidance, and they can find that here. They're quasi-military. It's the Youth Challenge. All right, looks good. And with that, hope everyone has a great day.